All right, y'all. Welcome to Blacks with Power, the show for blacks in America who want to discover ways to harness their power in order to protect the gains won by the struggles of our ancestors and advance the cause of freedom for themselves, their family, and for others. We believe that for America to be great, for America to be the more perfect union that our Constitution calls for us to be, then we must have racial reconciliation in this country. And for there to be racial reconciliation, there must be an effort upon us as black people in America to harness our power and leverage it effectively in advancing the cause of liberty and freedom and justice for all. I'm Father Jabril Ballantine, and I will be your guide on this journey towards the America that can and should be. Thank you so much for listening. You can visit us online at blackswithpower.com. Like the Facebook page, facebook.com/blackswithpower. Join in on the discussion. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube. Leave a review for me, please. Thumbs up, thumbs down if you like the video. Comment, let us know what you like, what you dislike, so we can make adjustments, make changes to make this show work for you. And then share your favorite episode with family, with friends, because truly, brothers and sisters, all voices are needed. Now, we got a lot to discuss, so let's get down to it. In this episode, I'm with Brandon Okpalobi. Brandon is the founder, president, and CEO of Dibia Athletic Development and Dibia Dream. Dibia, D-I-B-I-A. Y'all going to have to remember that because I'm going to send y'all some places later to find out more about what this brother is doing. But Dibia has grown from its beginnings as a summer camp to a comprehensive program that helps at-risk black youth beat the odds, realize their potential, and achieve their dreams through Dibia Dream so that they can live their best life and be their best selves while honoring God. Leaving New Orleans in 2000, Brandon went on to graduate from the University of Miami with a degree in computer information systems and a minor in marketing. During his high school and collegiate years, he was recognized for his athletic skill as he walked on to the University of Miami basketball team and was named the team captain. So from walk on to team captain. And so from 2005 to 2011, Brandon has worked for major corporations such as Orange Bowl Committee, Deloitte and Touche, the Miami Heat, and the University of Miami. But now he is fully and solely dedicated to enriching the lives of young people in America through Dibia Athletic and Dibia Dream. Brandon, how are you, brother?
Amazing and blessed today. I'm just happy to be here. Happy to be back in the States, too.
Oh, man. Where were you, brother? Good to have you with us.
Yeah, I went to South Africa for 10 days, and then I went to Bermuda for 5 days. South Africa, we partnered with a group called the NEO Project, where we took 10 of the NEO fellows on a transformational leadership experience through London, South Africa, Namibia. And so that was just a life-changing experience. And then every year I go to Bermuda for like a vacation to kind of, sometimes you just got to wind down a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was needed.
Oh, yeah. And it ain't no place better to wind down than the beach, man. Next time we got to get you down to the Virgin Islands where I'm from, St. Thomas Virgin Islands, man. So
yeah, I like St. Thomas a lot.
Good. Now we can continue this show because if not, brother. But no, right, really, truly, it's a beautiful thing, man. What you do, I tell people, Dibia Athletic, Dibia Dream, D-I-B-I-A, Dibia Athletic, Dibia Dream. Dibia Athletic is the for-profit side. Dibia Dream is the non-profit side. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a lot about the philosophy. But I want y'all to know what this brother is doing is a testimony to how you take your own experiences and transform it into something that is game-changing for others. And that's exactly what we're about. How do you harness your power and leverage it in ways that are effective in securing the freedom, not just for yourself, but also for others around you? And so, Brandon, I just want you to tell us like a little bit about how you got to be committed to this cause. Like I said, you're from New Orleans, but I know you're from Nigeria as well. Historically, not even historically, like your parents. So just tell us a story of how you got where you are and why you made that commitment.
I had amazing parents that really believed in discipline, and that discipline and being from New Orleans allowed me to, as you mentioned in the bio, walk on the basketball team at the University of Miami, which, a lot of people say they love this game. I truly do love the game of basketball because it's afforded me opportunities and taken me to places that I would have never gone to if I had not played that game.
Right.
Uh, it helped me really start my first business because when I graduated in 2005, I developed a great relationship with a kid named Julian Marks at the Hurricane basketball camp. And at the end, his family said, "Hey, why don't you train my son?" And I said, "Well, train him in what?" And they're like, "Train him in basketball." And I said, "Okay, I mean, it seems really easy." And they were like, "Yeah, we'll send you clients and this is what you charge people and just go from there." And I'm like, "Okay." But it grew. But my first job was the Orange Bowl committee. So that was it. The workload increased, but it was in segments, so I could still have clients. And then I worked for Deloitte and Touche, where I had no time, so I would probably have 1 or 2 clients a week, which isn't that great. But I was at a major accounting firm. And then when I worked for the University of Miami, I had so much time that I was able to develop a good core clientele. And when it was time to transition, I was able to, just build a business. But during that business, I started with our mission, really trying to help athletes do better from any walk of life.
Okay.
But we started with a lot of clients and we were just making money. So, the mission wasn't really there yet. And then we started doing a lot of nonprofit activities. Like we would do a toy drive. We would scholarship kids to our summer camps. We would scholarship kids to college. So these are all nonprofit activities that we're doing under a for-profit, which at the end of the day isn't the best thing. So
right.
I said, okay, let's just start a nonprofit. And I wanted to just do Saturday programming because we worked with a lot of people through an organization called Breakthrough Miami, and they do Saturday programming.
Okay.
But I said, if we only do stuff on Saturday, I don't think we're changing the narrative. So we started with after school programming. And I literally had no idea how to start an after school program, but there was a manual online, which was about 100 pages. And if you ask anyone who knows me, they know I'm not a reader, but I just copy everything and have Siri read it. But I actually read all 100 pages and I said, okay, now we have a program and now let's move forward. So we called it DREAM, which is Development Through Recreational Education for Athletic Minds. We started with 2 after-school programs in Miami and Overtown. Now we have 1 in Miami, 1 in New Orleans, and hopefully some other sites soon. And programs just kept coming. We do Dream Scholars, which is the scholarships to kids at college. We do scholarship kids to our for-profit camp. We just took 10 kids to Africa with a partnership with the NIA Project, which was amazing. We do STEM Saturdays. So it's just been a blessing to be able to do these things and give kids opportunities that I don't think I was afforded as a child, not because of any one reason, but I just don't think that STEM was that important at the time, or financial literacy. So, me coming up was basically, I was a bad child. I got kicked out of 2nd grade and 3rd grade.
Nice.
But I went to a school in 3rd grade that allowed me to channel all that negative energy through art. So I'm a big supporter of art, especially art with kids. So I believe in art therapy. So we try to do different things with our kids to make sure that they have outlets where it's not just outburst or acting up. It's constructive, positive ways to channel their enthusiasm positively. So that's kind of how we got there. And as we continue to go, we keep our mission in front of us on both sides.
Right. Okay, cool. No, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for explaining that landscape. Like I tell people, it's a lot that you do. And one of the things that's interesting for me that I found ironic when we have this conversation, right, is the name Dibia, right? So, when I talk about with Blacks with Power and Black empowerment and, the whole idea of, we have to, learn the various things that we need in order to use our power effectively. I see some dovetails with Dibia, but, people, when they hear Dibia, they're gonna be like, what the hell is that? Right. So So tell us,
Right.
tell us what is Dibia? Tell us about Dibia, the word and why you chose Dibia.
So when I first started, I had a brand. Well, I think that's when Rick Ross came out. So I put Brandon Okpalobi Sports, something like that. So it was Boss,
Okay.
because that's what he was. He
Right.
said Boss. So, and I mean, it was cool for a little bit. Then I had Basketball for All, which was extremely lame. And then one day, so my full name is Brandon Azuka Dibia Opalabi. And when you put my middle name together, which is Azuka Dibia, it means your back is stronger than the witch doctor's magic.
Hmm.
When you separate the two words, Azuka has a strong meaning with speed, agility, and things of that nature. And then Dibia means master of wisdom or knowledge. So what we do is we tell our kids to train like a Dibia, which is we say train to be great. So that's where the name came about. Just kind of, I think during that time I was doing some soul searching and really trying to understand what it meant to be Nigerian and what my name really meant, and that's how it came about.
Nice, nice, nice. So Dibia does. I misspoke. Then Dibia does not mean trained to be great. Dibia, or does it? But if I understood that, it means a master of wisdom.
Yeah, master of wisdom or knowledge. So we say train like a Dibia means train to be great because if you're a master of wisdom or knowledge, we kind of try to say like, oh, you're great at this or that. So if you train like a Dibia, whether it's education or finance, whatever it is, you're just trying to master whatever you're doing.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think, like I said before, I think that's important, man. Again, I don't usually do this, right? I try to make sure that I dress appropriately for my shows and whatnot. But I'm doing this 2 shows in a row. So those of y'all who did watch or listen to last week's episode, you would have seen me in this same shirt. But the problem is I'm a Garvey fanatic. I love Marcus Mosiah Garvey, right? The Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, and his birthday is August 17th, and so his birthday falls in the middle of the week, and so previous show, post show, I just wanted to put it right there, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, just so, just so that everybody could remember.
Right.
But I really was saying earlier to Brandon, y'all, that I think that there's a synapse there between what Garvey stood for, what Blacks with Power stands for, what Dibia stands for, in terms of equipping people to be great, equipping people to excel in their lives, to be contributors, to be masters of their domain, so that they can live the life that they should be able to live, right? That's
Right.
part of what you do, especially on the nonprofit side, correct?
Correct. I mean, at the end of the day, especially on the nonprofit side, we're trying to change the narrative where, there's a third grade stat that people say is either true or not, but at some level, there's some truth to it, is that they build prison beds on the amount of kids that fail the third grade, which you start to kind of step back and say, well, why won't they just put that money into quality programming or quality education? And it's very interesting now that I'm in education now. So before I wasn't. So I didn't know that, when we grew up, there was recess every day. We looked forward to recess. They don't have recess anymore. They took away art. There was wood shop that they took away. So anything that made you creative or outside of the normal box, they've somehow taken away. And someone at some level thought this was smart to cut the budget in these areas where, I'm like you mentioned before, I'm from New Orleans. Right now, we're going through a flood,
Right.
which after Katrina, we should be the number one pioneers in flood relief or getting water out of the city, where they just had this big flood. 8 pumps weren't working, and they hadn't been working for however long because they were looking for the best bid, which
Okay.
is horrible considering that you're playing with people's lives
Right.
over a bid. There's roads in Louisiana after Katrina that have not been completed. We're talking about 12 years later, but they have $1 billion in the roads budget, but they just won't pass it each year just for whatever reason. Education, right now is something that is going to separate the haves from the have-nots. And if you continue to operate education where people who have can still have recess in STEM and every other activity to make them a better person, while you dump less money into the schools that really need it, then we're going to still have the same divide. And I especially saw that when I was
Right.
in South Africa, is how you can see, it took us through certain museums, the Apartheid Museum, Hector Peterson Museum, where it talked about how they were trying to teach kids things differently, and kids just were standing up against it. And then that started a revolt. So it's very interesting now to see the problems that still exist that existed back then, and how we as a people have to come together and figure out, well, if what we did back then didn't work, if we continue to do that now, it's not going to work. So then what can we do to fix this on our own? Because we cannot say, oh, it's this person's fault or it's that race's fault. No, at this point in time in 2017, we have enough people who are educated and who can make certain things happen where we should be in a better place. And we're just not. And it's extremely frustrating to see on a daily basis how certain communities continue to fall by the wayside. Yet, we talk about gentrification and people are saying, we should buy back the block or buy this, but you have so many people who just are not in a position to buy anything.
Right.
So people will continue to gentrify, because in Miami, it's not necessarily you're gentrifying inland because it's a great neighborhood. Miami Beach is going to be flooded because sea level rises a little bit.
Right.
So it's not like these people actually really like this area. They're just going to change it up and make it different. So it's very interesting to see, some of these things that have happened before and how education plays a huge role in that, but how people just continue to hold certain communities back because of their skin color or their whatever it may be.
Right. Yeah. I like that. And it's interesting because like you said, there's enough of us that have enough education, enough opportunity, enough this, that, whatever, where, regardless of what went on, not negating what went on, but regardless of what went on, we should be able to be in a better position as a people, but we're not. And I remember when we were talking earlier, you mentioned something about our lack of a unique sense of identity. So when you say that, what in your mind is in theory a unique sense of identity, and why do you think that's important when we talk about those things?
Well, because if you look at every other race or ethnicity, there's not different levels of their race. It's white people are white. There's not, light skinned white, white, whatever white. It's just not like that.
Right.
We are blessed to have a diaspora where we have Haitians, Jamaicans, Africans, West Indian. We have but one thing we are divided.
Right.
And until we realize that we are one and we need to work together and not against each other, then that is our problem. And a lot of us don't want to do the research. Like, for instance, right now it's cool to be African. Like you see the same dashiki everywhere you go in different colors. It's like, okay, so now it's cool to have a dashiki.
Right.
It's cool to listen to Afro beats now. It's cool to watch Nigerian movies now. It's cool to wear a head wrap if you're a girl. Like all this stuff that people have been doing for years is now suddenly cool, or it's cool to do different things. Like everybody wants to be African now, but it's like, okay, so 2017, you decided it was cool because why? Like we have to stop with everything needs to be cool. What's right and who you are, and do your research. Like it's interesting. I know I'm Nigerian.
Right.
But I looked on ancestry.com just to see like, well, what else may be in my ancestry? Because I've seen I think it's another thing probably now is it's cool to know where you came from. So a lot of people in my Facebook feed have done the ancestry.com to figure out, oh, I'm from this part of Africa or Australia, wherever they're from. So, I think people need to really understand who they are, but have to understand history. You can't just, say, "Oh, I'm not African. I'm just American."
Right.
Well, yeah, technically that's not true, and you can say whatever you want, but there's the truth and there's
Right.
stuff that are lies.
Yeah,
So,
it's kind of like that quote that Malcolm X used to say. Yeah, you can if a cat has kittens in the oven, you don't call them muffins. You know.
right, right. So, I mean, things like that, it's extremely interesting. And I tell people all the time, like, you know, people need to travel to Africa because it's important to see so you can get the truth.
Right.
People tell you, oh, it's a jungle, or it's this, or it's that. You go there and you see something different, and it's so interesting how we as Americans also see everything that we do as the best, or we're the best, and this and that. And you got to go other places and see other cultures and understand that everyone's different, and everyone has their level of what's great, what's not great,
Mm-hmm.
to really understand it. Because it's just you see a lot when you go somewhere and really take in the culture and then understand, like, okay, these problems that were happening a long time ago are still the same problems that we're having today. Like when I went to see Straight Outta Compton, you're realizing that this happened so many years ago, but then you're also realizing that this is still
Still
happening
happening.
today.
Right. Hasn't changed.
So, while you're like, man, they went through a lot. Wait, we're going through. I'm not, I'm not in the group or anything like that, but it's very different how, back then you were scared, but you knew to be scared. And
Right.
today, since things are so covered up, that you walk outside so freely, but
At any
there's not
moment.
much at
Yeah.
any moment. Get pulled over, you're really concerned. Parents today are concerned if their kid is coming home on a daily basis. It's not even if they live if you live in a neighborhood or a low income area. You can live like LeBron. LeBron's house
Yeah.
was just vandalized in LA.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who you are, how
It's
much money you have.
it's almost like, at this stage of the game, it's safer to live in the hood. You know.
Right, right.
Uh,
It's crazy.
But you're right. We're still facing these things. We're still facing this shared oppression. But like you said, we're so dispersed and diverse diasporically. For those of y'all listening, we're so spread out. We're not connected. Africans are for Africans. And then even in there, Nigerians don't mess with South Africans, don't mess with Ethiopians. And Black Americans against Caribbeans, and all that just filth or whatever, that's preventing, like you said, that unique that unified sense of identity. So what would you say um what would you say is the biggest challenge to creating that unified sense of identity?
Uh, History. I don't think people know enough about where they come from to understand what people went through. It's very interesting when you hear people say, "Oh, I'm not going to vote," but not realize that people literally died for us to vote. Uh, it's very interesting when you hear people say, "I'm not going to do this," or "I'm not going to do that," or how lax we are with the N word in our community. There's just two. There's a large sum of issues that we really need to deal with, but there's some real issues that could be top five that I probably don't have all five of them, but I know for sure. I spoke to a group of college kids at Miami-Dade College, and I talked to them about a bunch of different things, and then I started talking to them about the use of the N-word. And there were a few Hispanics in there, and I asked them, I said, "Do you know your racial slur?" And they said, "No." And I said, "Okay, but do you know the black racial slur?" And they said, "Yes."
Huh.
And that right there is telling, because there's no way possible you can run up in any Hispanic barbershop and start saying their racial slur, or an Asian restaurant, or anywhere using anyone else's slur. You couldn't. But our slur is used everywhere because we're trying to say how we use the word, or it's a term of endearment. If I said, when you say something and you shake or you feel it or you have to look around, it's not cool. No matter what. Like you can curse right now and not the same way as someone using the N-word. Like let the wrong person use the N-word in a certain setting. It's a problem. It's a huge problem.
Right.
So just that alone, like we don't see eye to eye on something so fundamentally basic. Then we don't know where we came from. Then we don't want to be from Africa, or we don't want to say I'm African, or we have so many things that's cool to us. It's cool to be from the hood. It's like there's so many things that we could start. But I would just say with finding your identity, find out who you are, where your family came from, and then ask them stories about what they went through. Like my grandfather died at 95.
Okay.
And I think he died the year right after Barack was elected. So he went through seeing colored fountains, signs that said colored and white only, racial segregation and discrimination, to being free and seeing the first black president.
Right.
Like that, for him to even see something like that, like to grasp, and he probably never thought he would ever see that.
Yeah.
And for us to not understand the significance of that, or to even understand where we come from or how people have died to vote, we have some real issues that we have to really sit back and say, look, I'm not going to say, oh, it's this man or that man that's stopping me. I need to really kind of look at myself and my community and the people around me and say, okay, what are we doing that's not working? What can we do that does work?
Right. Yeah. Do for self. That's that self-sufficiency, self-reliant mentality that says, regardless of whatever obstacles somebody puts in my way, I'm going to find a way, because I'm just that talented. I'm going to find a way to circumvent those obstacles. So when you look at that challenge to that sense of identity, what you've identified is an understanding of history, and that shared history, and how that history plays into where we get. So then, how do you infuse that back into what you do with Dibia?
Well, on our for-profit side, we do a lot of mentorship through athletics, and one thing I find is that the youth, or the generation that's coming up now, has a very low discipline bar. And that it could be for a bunch of reasons, as parents are working harder, or they're tired after having however many kids, or they don't care, whatever it may be. But their respect for authority is extremely low. So there's just things we don't tolerate. And if they continue, that person's not in our program.
Okay.
On the W team side, we have core values, which we talk about with the kids, but we also really do more empowerment and more love with the kids, meaning we'll tell the kids we care for them, or we'll show them we care for them by different activities and different like field trips and things like that, because we want to make sure that when kids come to the program, that they understand, one, we truly do care for them no matter who they are, and we'll always have their back, and they should feel that they can talk to us. And I think when people have trust, then we can start to work on the other issues. The problem is that people don't trust each other, don't want to talk, or don't want to open up. So we never really know what's going on. So we can't fix a problem we don't know about. We have to get some trust and have some conversation where the person realizes, okay, this person really is here for my best interest. And then from there, we can kind of see like, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't eat last night. Okay, that is a huge issue. Let's find you food, or let's figure out a way for you to eat every night. Like, we have kids who don't eat unless they're at school.
Right.
So in New Orleans, we started something called Dream Packs, where we partnered with the Hyatt Regency of New Orleans, and we would give away large recyclable bags full of food, with 32 items of food for the weekend. On Thursdays, because kids need to eat. And it's so interesting that people don't get things. And then I got an article today about our site in New Orleans, and this is something that they did on their own. Um, they're launching a laundry program. You know, a lot of kids now with bullying, you know, like all kids don't have washing machines.
Yeah.
And they may only have one uniform. So if you only have one uniform, you wear it for 3 or 4 days, that uniform is going to have some smell to it.
Yeah.
You're getting bullied or people making jokes about you. So it's all, secret, but they'll wash your uniform and take care of it. It's some things that are in our community that we don't think about, but they may be small in our mind, but they're huge in others. And we have to starting to understand, like, look, there are real issues in our community that we need to really look at and figure out how do we impact instead of, sometimes people look at bigger picture, which, I mean, you can have big picture ideas, but sometimes we just can't get to those.
Right.
Without getting to, hey, this person didn't eat today, or their clothes are not washed, or they can't read, or they can't go to the preschool around the corner because there's gun violence, or this group of people can't walk across the street because they have beef with the other group across the street, yet none of these people own any of the property that they're beefing over. Like, our issues are deep, and we have to figure out how to get to the brains of our youth and make them understand.
Yeah. So when you look at that, right, and again, we talk to a lot of our show talks to a lot of Black professionals and Black youth in college, right? So primarily focusing on youth in college. They're in there for 4 years, right? So I'm a brother or a sister on a college campus, listening to the show, listening to you right now, talking about training to be great, talking about understanding our history and how it makes us who we are and takes us where we need to go. When you think about those things, when you think about those issues that you're saying that we don't think about, what would have to happen over the course of, let's say, like 4 years in college, right? What would have to happen for a young person nowadays to train themselves to be great? Like you're an athletic coach on the for-profit side. You're an athletic coach, and
right.
you give them steps that they can do even when they're not with you, that they need to do, especially when they're not with you, so that when they come back to you, you can teach them something new. So like if we're treating our listeners as one of your coaching students, like, what are the steps that they would have to do to train to be great?
One, I would say read more.
Says the brother who says he knows he's not a reader, right?
Says the brother who doesn't read. And it's not that I don't read. It's a lot of, I'll have Siri read stuff, or I read a lot during the day. It may not be things that I need to read, but I read a lot of documents. But I mean, people need to read articles more, periodicals, books. They need to read more, become financially lit. Like, financial literacy is extremely important in our community. I would say figure out whatever you want to become or be. If you're in college and you're like, look, I want to be an engineer, figure out how to be the best engineer possible. Who you need to get as a mentor, what organizations you need to join, what local community organizations you need to join, national community organizations you can join. So really look at, how to be an expert in what you do. And then peer mentorship. A lot of people have conversations daily about nothing. Which is cool. You gotta lighten it up, but then you start to realize, like, hey, we're not really talking about any business or anything. You're not talking about legacy or anything like that. Like, what's your thoughts on this? I think we're uncomfortable asking the uncomfortable questions. Like, we need to get uncomfortable. We need to talk about things that are important. Right. And it's not that. Another thing too is that we don't need, everything doesn't need to be an argument. We don't need to be combative. We really need to say, like, look, what is your thought process on? Why should I even say this? What's your thought process on Trump right now. That's an example, but that's an example. But like, what's your thought process on STEM education in certain communities or anything like that? But get someone's thought process on things because you can start to see this person thinks differently. We have to start making our circle make us better.
Right.
Because people always say if you're the top or you're the best person in your circle, you're not really being pushed.
Yeah.
Which is right and wrong. I mean, if you're the best and you just keep pushing people, okay. But if you get around a circle and then you catch up with that circle, you got to find a new circle. But at the end of the day, it's all about growth. But there's not enough growth within a lot of people today. A lot of people stay the same over years.
Right.
And, life passes you by. Like we're in August, which is about to be September. This year is almost gone.
Right. Real quick.
Right. Real quick. So like, what did you do in this year? Has this year been the same as last year? Are you still making the same mistakes? Did you start that business? Did you write that book? Did you, lose that weight? Did you, all these things, we don't talk about things that are needed to be talked about just because people choose to take easy ways out.
Yeah. I get that. That's why we try to have those types of conversations on Blacks with Power and just inject that into the conversation so that people can start to, like you said, have those discussions around the issues that are really shaping our life in society. So, that's why I appreciate having folk like yourself on who are engaging issues at a deeper level. And maybe, even if somebody isn't in New Orleans or in Miami, it might pique their interest into some things that they can do, into some conversations that they can have that take things at a deeper level. So I definitely appreciate you taking some time. So, one of the things that I want to know is, so you talk about, people need to read more, increase their financial IQ, be the best in their industry, to find some peer mentors and to talk about those things that matter. So in the final analysis, how does the work of Dibia encourage those conversations, and then to help people go beyond Dibia? Like how, because y'all need to understand what Dibia basically does is take sports and use sports to teach people about the things that they need to do in their life to live a better life. And all of y'all like sports, so right. So translate that from Dibia to just sports in general, and how people are training themselves for things that matter.
Right. I mean, sports is a universal language. So we use sports as a tool, especially on a nonprofit side, to make sure that, hey, this kid is extremely competitive. How about we put a chessboard in front of them and see how competitive they are, and change their mindset. Like, okay, now instead of you bouncing all over the place, your competitive spirit is into these chess moves, which is, it's an amazing thing to see. But the main component of sports is discipline. Like if you're disciplined enough to go in the gym and shoot shots or get on the field and take snaps, or you go to the field, kick a soccer ball, or go to the batting cage. It's all about discipline, because that's the main thing that separates people. It's who's working harder, who's working smarter, but who's also putting in the time. There's people who sit at home all day and have amazing ideas and do nothing with them. And then there's people who have an okay idea, but because they worked hard, they entered into a space where there were other hard workers who had innovative ideas who, triggered something inside of them to think outside of the box. So now an average thinker who was a hard worker is now a higher level thinker now, because of his hard work has put him in a different space. So it's all about discipline. I mean, the main thing I would say is discipline. We use discipline as our main tool, especially on the for-profit side, because we deal with all types of youth who come from all different types of backgrounds, and I come from a very, very strict background. So there's things that I can deal with, and there's things that I'm not going to talk about. And that's just the way it is. And you can either
like it or leave it.
find somebody else. I mean, that's it. And then our nonprofit, we're disciplined, very disciplined as well, but we're a little softer in our approach, but we're still very, very disciplined in making sure that kids, it's not about just coming and then doing the last thing, which may be a sports activity or something fun. The first thing we do is homework. Your homework has to be done. Your homework has to be completed. It has to be done right before anything.
Right.
So we're not going to do anything else. We're not going to do a fun or amazing STEAM or STEM project. We're not going to do an arts project. We're not going to do a field trip. Nothing. Homework is first. Everything else is after that.
Nice. So then, what is next for Dibia? What is on the horizon for you, for Dibia? What is your grand grand vision, your ultimate?
I wish I knew, man. Every day it changes. Every day it changes. I've been blessed to be creative on, certain ideas, and, God has put a bunch of great ideas in my head. I'm just trying to make sure that they all come to fruition. But the main thing is that we want to impact, we have a goal of impacting 1,000 kids a day through our after school program. Right now we're at about 200 plus.
Okay.
So, which that means is we need to obviously get more sites, which is more funding. So, our plan probably within the next 2 years is to have at least 5 to 7 sites, more sites in Miami, some sites in additional sites in New Orleans, Dallas, Killeen, Texas, and a couple other places.
Okay.
We have some ideas that are geared around art, where we want to involve the art community in Miami that is growing, especially in Wynwood and things like that, to work with our kids. We want to start doing some programming on teacher planning days. We want to do a big STEM fest, start doing STEM Saturdays. And there's probably like a couple other ideas I have in my head, but the main thing is just to make sure that we secure enough partners, sponsors, donors, believers into the program where we can really do exactly what we want to do. Eventually, we would like a school. That always helps with programming and things from mindset. But, I used to want a school tomorrow. But I've been blessed to meet some people who it took them a while, and they have some pretty big people behind them supporting them financially. So I said, okay, well, I can take some time.
Right.
So I'm more strategic now on how we move and how we operate. But we definitely want to work smarter and still work hard, but impact more kids, and just really get the community understanding what we're trying to do. And then we launched Dream Packs in New Orleans. I would definitely like to launch that in Miami. I think that is important because, childhood hunger is something that now it's on my radar. Like when things get on my radar, it's like, okay, I go, 100%
all in. Right.
Yeah. But, it takes a while sometimes for things to get on my radar. But when they're on there, it's like, how do we change it? So, we're looking at different things as far as policy and educational standards and, things that we can fix, because it's a systematic issue. And, if we keep going at it the way we are, not much can change. Right now we're impacting 200 kids, but there's millions of kids in Miami-Dade County.
Right.
How do we help more? That is the question I ask myself every morning.
Right. No, yeah. As long as you ask yourself that question, brother, you're going to keep helping more. Every day the Lord going to show you new ways to help more. And that's a beautiful thing. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to just share you with our audience so that they can see the power of, dream, Dibia dream, the power of dreams to take your talents, to take your interests and turn them into something that is game changing for others and also, very, very fulfilling for you, man, because you can tell the
Right.
joy that you have in doing this work and just pursuing the things that are of interest to you. So, I really appreciate you sharing that. Y'all need to keep an eye on Brandon. Brandon, I didn't slip this in there earlier. I should have. You didn't put this in the intro that you gave me. But Brandon is also on the top 20 under 40 down there in South Florida. So the man is doing big things. The brother is doing big things. And so DibiaDream.org, correct? DibiaAthletic.com. Again, Dibia, DIBIA, DibiaDream.org, DibiaAthletic.com. Brandon, any last words that you want to share with listeners out there on anything? I know we've covered a lot, we've said a lot, but I just want to make sure before I close off that I didn't leave anything hanging.
No, I just, we definitely want the community to get more involved in what we're doing, but we want people in the community. I mean, there's tons of people who have ideas, and they're waiting on something to make that idea happen. I started Dibia Athletic with $1 and a dream, and I started Dream with 50% of the revenue that Dibia was bringing in. The people kept saying, why start a nonprofit now? You should wait till you make a certain amount of money and then start it. And I said, well, one, I don't know what that amount of money is. And then two, how many lives would we have not have impacted? How many people would we have not have changed? How many kids would we have not sent to college? And it goes down the list. Yes, there's stresses of, funding and things like that. But, that's a good stress to have if you're sitting there worried about funding and your program is winning awards and things like that. So I wouldn't change anything, but I would definitely tell people to, if you have that dream or you want to write that book or whatever it may be, then go do it. I mean, you only live once and, be the change you want to see. You want to see something new out there, create it. I mean, at the end of the day, all people can do is not support it, and you go back to the drawing board and do it better.
And that's the thing, brothers and sisters. Like Brandon just said, you got to be the change. And something that I heard in what he just said was this idea that you have to understand that your life matters. You know what I mean? That you have a particular contribution to give. That if you don't do it now, like Brandon said, how many lives will not be impacted if I don't do this? Understanding that you have, Brandon, a particular call and a particular purpose, particular things that you've been put here to do. And so why delay? So it's the same for you, brothers and sisters. You each have been gifted with a particular thing that you have been called to do, and there is no need for you to wait to do it. Yes, surround yourself with the right peers, with the right mentors, with the right group. Increase your financial IQ. Yes, read more. Yes, be the best. But understand that if you've been gifted to do it, as you equip yourself, you'll be able to do it. So, Brandon, I appreciate you being on the show. Y'all go to DibiaAthletic.com. Really go to DibiaDream.org. I mean, unless you're in South Florida, then you can go to Dibia Athletic and be part of his programming. But at least Dibia Dream, you can understand more about what he does that can touch you and affect you beyond the basketball court. And so we want to hear from you. Check him out on social media. Check me out on social media. Facebook.com/BlacksWithPower. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, and YouTube. Listen to previous episodes. Leave a review. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs down if you like it, if you dislike it. Shed some words of enlightenment. Let me know what I could do better, what I'm doing great, hopefully everything. But then share your favorite episodes with family and with friends, because truly, brothers and sisters, a charge to keep we have. A God to glorify. A never-dying soul to save and fitted for the sky. We as a people have come a long way. Yes, indeed. Thanks be to God, we've accomplished a great deal. But we ain't there yet. So let us march on till victory is won. Live with power.